Sup everybody, this is Karak with ACG, the bearded shaman of gaming, bringing you reviews at the speed of embargo. What do Microsoft's Twitter bot, Facebook's Article AI, HAL, and of course the absolutely blitzed out of its mind computer from War Games have in common? You see, those are fictional and real accounts where we get a warning that putting AI in charge of almost anything is a friggin' Crystal Pepsi style of disaster. So what happens right at the starting of Event Zero? That's right, we put an AI in charge of a spaceship and send it out into the abyss. Sounds like a plan. Hey, while you're at it, why don't you have Charlie Sheen in charge of blood donations? In Event Zero, you play as an astronaut ending up on a derelict spacecraft where the rest of the crew is supposedly dead. And of course, your only line to what happened is the inevitable role filled by that slightly wonky computer, an AI known as Kaizen or Kaizen, who you have to work with to figure out what's happened. The game is basically a walking simulator with rooms to explore and puzzles to figure out, using, well, for the most part, your own ability to engage in witless banter with a questionably sane compatriot. Event Zero comes speak and spell into Steam on September 14th for $19.99. As always, if you like the video, maybe subscribe. So here's the review for Event Zero, the world's worst day, zero-gravity record players, and the first major speaking role for Microsoft's text-to-voice. Graphics are at first. You know, even at 1440p, this thing is rough, and while you have various options like anti-aliasing, post-processing effects like bloom, and some screen space additions, in the end, the textures in the game world are decidedly behind the times. Now, that doesn't mean at times it doesn't hold its own in the atmosphere department, because it does. Even in the first couple moments, the use of shock scares of the deep space kind do wonders to engage the atmosphere as you creep along the claustrophobic, but sometimes futuristic designs of a spaceship that looks like it was put together by Robin Leach from Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous after he had like maybe one or two too many hot toddies. And I mean it. One second you're in someone's space bedroom rifling through clothes that you would expect someone on vacation in friggin' Scotland to be wearing. And the very next time you're creeping through a server cluster that looks like something from the Mission Impossible movies. It's a cool thought to think that for the sheer sanity of the workers on the ship, this was all made to make them feel at home. But at times, it's actually a little bit creepy just because of that. Now, while the game ran well graphically, it wasn't without its issues. And on two different computers, one with a GTX 980 and the other with the 1080, the game would just freeze up for a second or two every couple minutes, then progress on like someone asked it a really deep question. It was like, you know what? Nope, I don't have the answer to that. Additionally, it did have issues switching resolutions where sometimes you'd switch it and absolutely nothing would happen and you'd have to reboot it. Really, when you look at it, the game does evoke a good atmosphere of cyber dread from time to time, especially using the antiseptic confines of the environment as well as some of the location's destruction or puzzling disassembly to a high degree of usefulness. But honestly, it wasn't that impressive to me, and in the end I would say it was good environmentally and has some interesting locations, but all in all technically sort of uninteresting. And of course that brings us to sound, music, and voice.
And all the stars say, hey Judy, hey, all those lights are for you.
Designed to make the inactive on the spacecraft. The goal is to measure its translation is content.
Sound is up first. It's good from the heavy use of surprise bangs like some space alien is throwing your comrades' bodies against the side of the ship to the creak and groan of steel under pressure and probably pretty torturous misuse. It's actually good. There is one particular area though, a search through photographic catalogs on the computer that was surprisingly poorly mixed and resulted in an uneven presentation to the point that I had to actually turn it down because it just sounded so gratingly bad. All in all though, as a package, I'd say pretty good. Music. Well, most of the music is contained as actual experience moments that lie within like the record player or a TV playing a musical ditty for an advertisement or the world's worst placed piano in someone's room popping out some old-time composer's soul. The music is pretty good. It's not the way you would think it is though, and there's very little of an OST here. It actually occurs within the experience itself. Instead, it's about the atmosphere and not really about it just playing all by itself. It's pretty good, but not great. Voice. Okay, so aside from the bit pieces here and there, and of course the music, the main voice is the speak and spell sounding main AI, and I have to say, it was surprisingly good. It's almost always messed up, the computer literally cracking up as you talk to it, sometimes pretty easy to understand, and at other times it sounds like it's apparently come down with the world's worst US bank account hack and seems completely broken. I actually ended up liking it. It can be a bit on your nerves at times, and it does sometimes repeat itself, and it does sometimes mess up, but overall, the use of that text to audio I actually ended up liking, and it sort of fits in with the mood of the tale here. Gameplay. I think the first thing we need to all do is basically admit, yes, this is a walking simulator, so you have to have your expectations in a particular area. You start out and begin searching the various different locations for clues, many of them within the computer itself that you have to coerce, cuss at, confide in, and cajole before it gives you the info you need to get to that next level. I've always found it so interesting that these walking simulators, there's always one thing about them that interests me or I feel should be in every other game. Now, searching through the reading logs and hacking memory systems and retracing the steps of those before you is done really well because of the use of a very cool auto tracking tool on your HUD on the right that takes down data that's usable for later. So if you find a memory address, you can search it, or if you find a code or something somebody's talked about, it sort of pops up there. This is not something that's actually brand new for many games, but for some reason it just seemed to really work well here, especially because sometimes you're reaming through an incredibly large array of data. Now, while there has been talks about the use of this chatbot within the title that makes up the AI and how it all works, I find that not knowing is probably going to be a bit more enjoyable for you as a gamer. It's good stuff nonetheless, and while like any AI it's going to make mistakes, the use of event discussion can sometimes feel uncannily like the computer is watching you progress, and the designers and developers planning to use that roughness as a game mechanic ended up working out to the advantage, I think. But my god, the real issue here is, aside from some of those times outside in your spacesuit, the game is absolutely mind-numbingly repetitive, and like the old Myst and other titles of that yesteryear, it doesn't feel like it has a modern enough mentality to really stretch its wings here. But again, as I said, the use of the computer as this entity is very enjoyable. It just doesn't really go past the typical expectations of all the other games that have done this kind of thing before. Also, control is hampered by some of the most wickedly bad mouse acceleration I have ever experienced. I couldn't turn it off, and that was post the patch that they had for fixing it for reviewers. It also has the weirdest interaction where hovering over items slowly allowed you to find out what they were, using a Kinect on the old Xbox 360 style of hovering your hand over the damn option as it drew into the world's slowest circle before letting you actually see what it was you were looking at. I mean, it makes you feel like the entire game you're playing is Sleepy Smurf, with your eyes just slowly squinted, and then every time you look at something, it takes you a while to sort of open them up and be like, dude, what's that? It really just absolutely hampered the experience. Now, that doesn't mean it's all terrible. I can't tell you how many damn times I have played a game and learned something on a computer and ran somewhere else and promptly forgot it and had to go back. Every single event here, all the monitors are treated as one, and you can see what you were last typing on a monitor in a different room on the new computer monitor that you end up interfacing with the next time. That was very cool, and it allowed for the symmetry of motion that I absolutely liked. But let's be honest, if you aren't looking, leaping, running, or reading in a walking simulator, you're usually performing puzzles. And in this game, there are a couple. The only thing is that they are all basically experienced in the exact same way, by looking through the logs, figuring it out, and then ending up entering it onto the computer. After about the 46th time of that, I was not prepared for a 47th. Fun factor. You know, this isn't a one-trick pony. I mean, it's not Chris Angel, but it is a little bit David Blaine. The issue here is that while some walking simulator games don't really let their gameplay get in the way of the story many times and are far too effective at it to really be called games, Event Zero goes the other route, and the constant reuse of the interfaces and the repetitive instructions means that a few times that you actually feel like you're talking to a computer, you suddenly realize, fuck man, I'm just talking to a computer. It's enjoyable at first, but that uniqueness grinds down fairly quickly. So as you guys know, I rate games on a buy, wait for sale, rent, or never touch it again rating scale, with rent being replaced by deep sale on Steam. And of course, this is a wait for a sale. It's $19.99. I think this would be much better priced at about $10. You know, when I look at it, there's a unique experience here, but it grinds down fairly quickly. And in the end, it's not really HAL. It's not really anything from 2010. Hell, it's not even that computer from War Games. It's pretty much a speak and spell hooked up to a slightly more intelligent processor. So that's it for me. As always, if you want real reviews that aren't 2 minutes long and filled with bullshit, check out ACG. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Check out Patreon. If you dislike the video, give it a thumbs down. Peace out and enjoy the rest of your week.